There's a place in my memory, a sanctuary of chrome and vinyl, smelling of sizzling beef and French fries, a place where every problem could be solved with a chocolate shake and a sympathetic ear. It was more than a restaurant. It was the heart of our town. And for my family, it was our entire world. My father, Frank, built Frankie's Drive-In from a dream and a $5,000 loan in 1967. He wasn't a businessman, he was a craftsman. His hands, forever nicked and scarred from the grill, were the same hands that would gently fix my bike chain. He believed in two things: the sacredness of a perfect, juicy burger, and the goodness of people. My mother, Clara, was the soul of the place. She ran the register, her laughter a familiar melody over the hiss of the soda fountain. She knew every customer by name, knew their order, knew if they'd had a tough day. She had a sixth sense for sadness, and would always slide an extra slice of pie across the counter to whoever needed it most. They worked 7 days a week, sun up until the last customer finally left, always with a smile. They were living the American dream, or so we all believed. The dream had a soundtrack: the crackle of the griddle, the chime of the door, the low hum of the neon sign that glowed like a beacon against the Indiana night. And the jukebox, oh, that Wurlitzer 1015 bubbler was the pulsing heart of the place. For a dime, you could fill the room with Elvis, with the Supremes, with the hopeful, aching voice of Roy Orbison. I grew up in a vinyl booth, doing my homework by the soft glow of the tabletop lamp, my world defined by the gentle rhythm of my parents' labor. I was so proud of them. They were local celebrities, the keepers of the town's unofficial clubhouse. What I didn't know, what none of us knew, was that our little slice of heaven was built on a secret. A secret that would take me decades to truly understand. The first strange thing I remember was the men in the nice cars. Every Friday, like clockwork, a long, black Cadillac would glide into the far corner of the parking lot, away from the other cars. A man in a very sharp suit would get out. He never came to the counter. My father would see him, nod once, and then, he would disappear into the back office. He'd emerge a few minutes later with a thick, greasy paper bag, the kind we used for large orders of burgers to go. He'd walk it out to the man in the suit, who would take it, slip my father a folded bill as a tip, and drive away without a word. I asked my dad about it once. "Who's that fancy man, Daddy?" He ruffled my hair, his smile not quite reaching his eyes. "That, kiddo, is just a very loyal customer. He has a big family. Orders the same thing every week." It made sense to my young mind. Of course a man with a big family would need a big bag of burgers. I thought nothing more of it. But there were other things. The diner was always, curiously prosperous. When other businesses on the strip struggled during the oil crisis, when the factory on the edge of town laid off half its shifts, Frankie's Drive-In thrived. My father never worried about money. He was always buying new equipment, repaving the parking lot, giving raises to the cooks. He called it blessed. He'd say, "Clara, we are just blessed. People will always need a good burger." And we believed him. We all did. Because the alternative was unthinkable. The real heart of the operation, the true secret of our success, wasn't my father's cooking. It was my mother's ledger. It was a beautiful, leather-bound book she kept under the counter, its pages filled with her elegant, looping cursive. She recorded every sale, every pound of ground chuck, every case of Coca-Cola syrup. She was meticulous. But there was a second book. A smaller one, with a plain black cover. I saw it only once. I came into the back office late one night, couldn't sleep, and saw her at the desk, bathed in the green glow of the adding machine. She was transferring numbers from the big, beautiful ledger to the small, black one. Her face was tense, concentrated in a way I'd never seen when she was just tallying the day's receipts. She saw me and jumped, slamming the small book shut. "Sweetheart, what are you doing up?" she asked, her voice a little too high. "I'm just doing the books, baby. Go back to bed." I asked her why she had two books. She smiled, a tired, worn-out smile. "Oh, this little one. This is for my special recipes. Now off to bed with you." It was a lie. A gentle, loving lie, but a lie all the same. I forgot about it for years, chalking it up to the strange, boring world of adults and their paperwork. But that little black book, that was the key to everything. The summer of 1978 was the hottest on record. The air conditioning in the diner groaned and struggled, and the heat from the grill was unbearable. But business was better than ever. The strange Friday visits continued. The black Cadillac was joined sometimes by a silver Lincoln Continental. The men in the suits always did the same dance with my father. The paper bag handoff. The folded tip. The silent departure. I was a teenager now, and less oblivious. I started to notice things. The suits were too nice for our town. The cars were too clean. These men didn't look like they worked in the factory. They had a different air about them, a quiet authority that seemed to make even the boisterous town sheriff lower his voice when they were around. I started asking different questions. "Dad, who are those guys? They don't seem like they eat burgers." My father's face would tighten. "They're businessmen from out of town. They have a taste for my cooking, that's all. Now don't you worry about them. Go sweep the parking lot." His answer felt rehearsed. A script he'd practiced. The unease in my gut grew. One Friday, curiosity got the better of me. I was taking out the trash just as the handoff was happening. I hid behind the dumpster, watching. The man in the suit took the bag, but this time, he opened it. He didn't peek inside for a burger. He pulled out the top of the bag, looked in, and nodded. It was filled with something, but it wasn't food. It was bundles of something. Neat, paper-wrapped bundles. He slipped my father a tip, but this time, my father didn't pocket it. He looked at it, and I saw him shake his head. The man in the suit smiled, a cold, thin smile, and added another bill to the fold. My father nodded, and only then did he take the money. I felt a cold dread wash over me, despite the blistering heat. Something was very, very wrong. The end of Frankie's drive-in didn't come with a bang. It came with a whisper. It was a Tuesday afternoon, slow and quiet. Two men in very plain, very cheap suits walked in. They didn't look like the usual Friday men. They looked serious. Official. They flashed badges at my mother. IRS, they said. They needed to see the books. My mother, ever gracious, smiled and brought out the big, beautiful leather-bound ledger. Her hands were steady, but I saw the fear in her eyes. The men spent hours there, sipping coffee, their fingers tracing the columns of her perfect handwriting. They asked quiet questions. Where did we source our beef? What did we pay for buns? How many burgers did we sell on an average day? My mother answered everything calmly, but the air in the diner grew thick and heavy. They finally left, saying thank you, giving nothing away. That night, my parents fought. It was the first and only time I ever heard them raise their voices at each other. I told you it was too much, Frank. I told you, my mother cried, her voice cracking. What was I supposed to do, Clara? Say no to them, my father shot back, his voice a low, desperate growl. We have a family. This place, it puts a roof over our heads. And what kind of roof is it now? She sobbed. I sat at the top of the stairs, my heart hammering against my ribs, listening to my world fracture. The next week, the men in the cheap suits returned. This time, they brought a warrant. And this time, they didn't ask for the beautiful ledger. They asked for the small, black book. My mother went pale as ash. She didn't ask how they knew about it. She just walked to the desk, her movements slow and heavy, like she was walking through water, and handed it over. The truth, when it finally came out, was more bizarre and shocking than anything my teenage imagination could have conjured. Frankie's Drive-In, the beloved heart of our town, was a brilliantly designed money laundering operation for the Chicago outfit. Those Friday visits, those weren't for burger orders. The thick, greasy bags were filled with cash. Illegal cash from gambling, from protection rackets, from only God knows what else. The men in the nice suits were couriers. My father's role was to take that dirty money and run it through the diner's books, making it look like legitimate profit from selling hamburgers and milkshakes. That's what the little black book was for. The real ledger showed our actual, modest profits. The little black book was the fantasy ledger, the one that accounted for the mob's money, inflating our sales numbers to absurd degrees. How many burgers would we have had to sell to make that much money? Thousands a day. It was mathematically impossible, but the IRS never looked until an anonymous tip forced their hand. The folded bill the man gave my father. That was his cut. His payment for a service rendered. For years, my father, the man who taught me to always look a person in the eye and tell the truth, had been living a double life. He wasn't a criminal mastermind. He was a frightened man who'd been approached years earlier and given an offer he felt he couldn't refuse, a generous, silent partner who would ensure his family's dream never failed. The price was his silence and his integrity. The fallout was quiet, but absolute. There were no dramatic arrests, no perp walks. The mob guys vanished, their tails between their legs, their operation exposed. The IRS hit my parents with massive fines and back taxes for the unreported income they'd never even actually kept for themselves. They had to sell the diner to pay it off. The new owners painted over the neon sign, changed the menu, and eventually, it closed for good. The heart of our town just stopped beating. The shame was a living thing in our house. My father aged 10 years in 10 months. The light in my mother's eyes never fully returned. They never went to jail, but they became prisoners in their own home, shackled by the judgment of the town they loved. People who had smiled and waved now crossed the street to avoid them. The story was too juicy, too shocking, not to spread. We were pariahs. I was angry for a long, long time. Angry at my father for his weakness, for his betrayal of everything he'd taught me. I saw him as a coward. A fraud. The man who built my world had built it on a lie. It took me becoming a father myself to even begin to understand. The understanding didn't come in a lightning bolt of revelation. It came slowly, over years, like a gentle thaw. I was struggling with my own business, lying awake at night, terrified of not being able to provide for my family. The fear was a physical weight on my chest. And in those dark, quiet hours, I finally saw my father not as a mythic figure of my childhood, but as a man. A simple, hardworking man who loved his family with a ferocity that was his greatest strength and his ultimate weakness. He was presented with a devil's bargain. Protect your dream, ensure your child never wants for anything, and all you have to do is look the other way. Could I have said no? I'd like to think so. But that fear, that primal, driving fear of failure, I finally understood its power. He wasn't a gangster. He was a patsy. A useful idiot for sophisticated criminals who knew an honest, hardworking, and scared man was the perfect cover. The most brilliant part of their scheme was that the front was real. The love was real. The community was real. The best burgers in the state were real. They used our authenticity as a weapon. They hid their darkness in our light. I went to see my father before he passed. We sat on his porch, the silence between us comfortable for the first time in decades. I didn't offer forgiveness. I didn't need to. Instead, I offered understanding. "You know, Dad," I said, looking out at the quiet street. "I think I finally get it." He looked at me, his old eyes watery and wise. "Get what, son?" "The diner," I said. "It was never about the money for you, was it?" "Not really. It was about the people. It was about that feeling. You weren't protecting a business. You were protecting a feeling. A single tear traced a path through the wrinkles on his cheek. He just nodded, unable to speak. He had spent a lifetime punishing himself for his mistake, a life sentence of regret served in silence. In that moment, the anger I'd clung to for so long finally melted away, leaving only a profound, aching sadness for the weight he had carried alone. So what's the legacy of Frankie's Drive-In? It's not a story of crime and punishment. It's a story of love. A complicated, flawed, deeply human love. My father's love for his family was so immense that it became the very tool others used to manipulate him. He wanted to give us everything, and in trying to do so, he risked losing everything that truly mattered. The twist, the final revelation that reshapes it all, is this: the mob may have laundered their money through our grill, but they could never touch the love that was cooked there. They could never replicate the taste of my mother's pie, or the sound of my father's laughter echoing off the tiles. They could never own the memories created in those vinyl booths, the first dates, the graduation celebrations, the quiet comfort found in a cup of coffee at the end of a long day. The money was always dirty. But the love was always, always clean. And long after the last dollar was counted by the IRS, long after the neon sign was turned off for the last time, that love is the only thing that remains. It's the only thing that ever really mattered. And that is a truth no one could ever cook the books on.